Hello, hello, everybody. Hello, Brenda Joe. Um, we are going to get started pretty quickly here. I don't know how long this video is going to last. Um, the next video in line was actually a video with Pascal. But, hi, Canine. I decided to follow Canine's advice and do the interview room where they're reviewing. Hi, Mike. We're going to watch the interview room where they are doing the review of Katie and Chris Proudfoot's first interview. So I thought we'd look at that tonight. Be kind of a lively discussion. I think it always is when we're looking at anything to do with Katie and Chris, right? So, gonna share my screen and we'll get started. Okay. And these guys are both professionals in their own right. Many of you may know Chris McDonough. He's with the cold case files, that kind of thing. The interview room, obviously. And then I can't think of his name right now, but the guy from Truth to Lies as well is on here. And so let's just get started.
With the Cold Case Foundation, and we've used this for numerous cases. So
we just did last week.
Just last week, yeah.
So, okay, so let's get started. Our way of doing this, guys and gals, and friends and neighbors, is I like to let Steve listen. He'll say stop. We'll go back if he wants us to go back. And then we get to pick his brain.
I missed you last night, Mike.
And see, what's coming out there and what he's seeing that we may or may not be seeing. So, you ready, Steve?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, I'm going to put the video up here and we'll start.
First, just to express, I can't even imagine as a parent.
Hi, Super Cat.
What you two are going through. How would you describe the situation right now? How are you coping?
We're on a constant roller coaster ride of helpless and hopeless and many other emotions all in one, and it's a never-ending roller coaster. It doesn't stop. It won't stop until he walks.
We all have those every once in a while, don't we?
I wouldn't wish this on anyone.
Let's hold it right there, Chris.
Okay.
Okay, so a couple things. First thing is that stepdad, his name is Chris as well. So stepdad Chris, he says, well, first of all, I got to note that mom did not answer, and I'm wanting to hear certain things from mom as a biological mother. I want to hear right away her expression of concern about her son and what he is experiencing at this time. He's been missing for 8 days. And I know that the reporter, she targeted, that question to what they have been feeling, but the feeling of any parent, the grief over their missing child is going to override anything that they may be experiencing.
Well, that's awesome. Hello, Super Cat. Hello, Super Cat. It's nice to know you're Canine's daughter. That's awesome. I liked what he said. I just kind of wanted to stop it there to say that we'd all like to hear from Katie, wouldn't we? We haven't heard from her much. He said, I wanted to hear from her. Yeah, Well, let's continue to hear what he says.
Themselves, that feeling of what is Sebastian going through? What is he experiencing? Did he find some shoes? Is he getting fed? Is he staying warm at night? Is he all these, a myriad of things? Did he find someone to take care of him? Is he scared? Is he okay? And just a myriad of things. And that would override everything else. And so I'm wanting to hear that from mom right away, but she couldn't come up with anything. And I've seen that in other cases where and I should say cases where the parents actually had some guilty knowledge of the disappearance of their child. And when they don't come up with it right away, it's almost as if they were asked something that they weren't expected to be asked. And then because lots of times parents will go into once they're asked questions, they have a narrative, and that's what they think is just enough. Whatever's in their head, they think it's enough to suffice the questions that they will be asked. And if they're asked a question that doesn't quite fall in line, they're kind of at a loss of what to say. And so I'm wanting to hear mom express things about Sebastian, and she couldn't do it. What she did say is, I wouldn't wish this on anyone. Chris, that refers to what she's going through, not what Sebastian is going through. And that's the thing that really caught my attention, is that she has put the focus on herself rather than her 15-year-old son. And he's autistic and he has special needs. And I just don't, that just was abrasive to me. It struck me as not what I expected to hear from biological mom.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
No, you're on a roll. I'm listening.
Well,
So, we watched this before, right? And we said, Katie, this was the one time that we saw Katie look emotional. But people can look emotional for different reasons. This is right after Sebastian went missing. And you heard what he just said. He said it. I did not. He said that she couldn't answer. When they do that, he has seen it in other parents who were guilty. It's like, uh-oh. Hi, Chai. Good to see ya. And so that's my wonder. And that was my wonder when I first saw this. I don't think I said it, but it made me wonder, is she just feeling guilt over what happened? Did something happen to him? I mean, we can legitimately ask that, right? We know that he had water on the brain. He couldn't get hit there, and it was right by his temple. Was that thump more than what we know? That thud, that thump, whatever it was, the noise that she said. I think she called it different things at different times in different interviews. So was that more than we know? Did something happen to him and then they covered it up? Or maybe, somebody lashed out in anger and then realized what they did. I mean, it could be many different things here. So what he's saying here is that could be guilt. We just have to keep our eyes open, right? And Mike, I know you love to play the devil's advocate, don't you? But I'm going to ask you a question. Can you keep an open mind? Can you be objective as we hear this out? Because I know you're that's what you do. So Chai says Katie has chronic health issues. And that can explain things. Okay. Well, I suppose it can. Let's continue to hear what he has to say.
If you have something to say about that, because I'm going to go back to what stepdad Chris said.
Yeah, no, and the rocking, that sometimes is a stress relief.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes for people, they're releasing that tension and that energy. Because to Steve's point, they may have something going on that we don't know. And by the way, just for the record, in the beginning of this, everybody is innocent until proven guilty. We're not here to say,
Absolutely, guys.
they're innocent or they're guilty. That's not what we're doing. We're analyzing from a professional perspective, where both of us have testified in court as experts in our field. Steve is an expert in analyzing.
I think so too, K9.
This statement analysis and identifying deception. It is much different in a criminal case than it is in the civilian court for a civil case, because in a criminal case you have jeopardy and you have people that could lose their liberty, so they have a lot more to lose than just their house or they're looking at. So I don't have any other thing, to dovetail into what you've already said so far, Steve.
Okay. Going back to the first thing that Chris said, he said, we're on a constant roller coaster of helpless and hopeless. Now,
listen to this, guys.
Here's the thing about this, and some people, I hope you can see what I'm going to say here, where I'm going with this. That is a portrayal of emotion such as you would read in a novel. It is something that, in other words, something that I don't expect to come from a de facto innocent parent. It is something that would be said to cover, because to cover up some guilty knowledge. Let's say it is something that appeals to the emotion of the listener, of the interviewer, of everyone out there listening to the news. Chris is appealing to that emotion. And I almost feel bad calling him Chris, because I like you so much, and I'm saying Chris, and I'm referring to this guy here. So
call me Mac.
Okay.
And we'll differentiate the two of them about that. No.
So the important thing is that the first thing that he went to was helpless and hopeless. And Chris, it's just that a de facto innocent person is going to have hope. They are going to hold out for hope. I know of cases where a child disappeared and the parents held out for hope that child is going to return for over 20 years. And even when investigators finally discovered that the child had been murdered, the parents refused to let that into their vocabulary and declare the child deceased. For 20 years, they referred to him in the present tense and as alive and going to come back. And my point is that it's very difficult for them to let go. Now, this is a stepdad. It's easier for him to let go, for sure. And men in general can also let go easier than biological mothers can. But mom didn't answer. And so he went to helpless and hopeless. And that is and going to come back. And my point is that it's very difficult for them to let go. Now, this is a stepdad. It's easier for him to let go, for sure. And men in general can also let go easier than biological mothers can. But mom didn't answer. And so he went to helpless and hopeless. And that is not only an appeal for listeners to believe him, but it is an indication that there is no hope in his mind that Sebastian is coming back, and they're helpless. And in my mind, I'm thinking, are you kidding me? You're talking to the news right now. You should be portraying this. You should be so happy that we're on the news, and hey, everybody, that we're getting the word out. Here's what he was wearing, and let's go out and find him. And it would be like that. I would be very hopeful at that point that I'm getting it way out there to everyone. Now, we learned that this interview came 8 days into the disappearance, and I'm wondering, what is the holdup? Why hasn't this happened before? And it's my understanding that the parents wouldn't do an interview. Is that correct? To your knowledge?
I do not know that, Steve.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I won't touch on that then, but I would like to see the parents right away coming out and saying, hey, our child is missing, and this is who he is, and let's get the information out. But that didn't happen. And instead we have this portrayal of helpless and hopeless, and mom not telling us the things that a de facto innocent biological mother should be telling us about the concern over her son. Instead, she's focusing on herself. So that's what we got.
I love it.
So let's. Yeah.
And I guess we can call him CP.
CP. All right. Good deal.
And that way folks don't get my name and his name mixed up.
Good. Thank you for that.
Which is the same name. And that was a suggestion from the chat. All right. You want me to keep moving, brother?
Let's go. Yeah.
All right. Here we go.
Not anymore.
I like what he said about how the parents should be not saying that they're hopeless. So, because you've got Seth 9 months later saying, my son's alive, we're going to find him. That's not hopeless. And he's been saying that since the get-go. Even when some of us are a little afraid of what might turn up, right? I mean, I'm not ruling that out. I hope to God that he does come home alive. I really do. And that's what I'm praying for. But it's been 9 months, right? So it's a little scary to think that what could have happened to him. But this is 8 days in. And they're saying they're hopeless. Why? Why? Why are they hopeless that soon in? What do they know? Something to think about.
I know we're about keeping hope alive. I'm sure that's in there somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
He's gonna
Always.
come home.
He's going to walk through that door. And this street will be flooded again with family and relatives all waiting to hug and love him. And
That boy's gonna have more friends than he knows what to do with when he comes home.
So
Hold up right there before we get into the next part. It's interesting that interviewer, she's the one that she sensed that something was wrong. You can tell, and she introduced, well, how about keeping hope alive? I'm sure that's in there somewhere, isn't it? And she wants to hear that. She's, as an interviewer, as working for the news, I'm sure she's interviewed a lot of different people and watched a lot of interviews, and she knows what comes out of the mouth
8 days in, Mike.
A parent whose child is missing. She's wanting to hear certain things, and she didn't hear it, and so I'm sure she's helping him out here, and it couldn't come out. Mom couldn't get it out of her mouth. Again, why aren't we hearing that type of language out of her mouth? It's void. She's void of it. Yet at different times, we're going to see during this interview that she's very teary-eyed and she's sad, and I believe that she is. I believe that they're real tears. Chris, you and I have both seen fake tears in interviews many times, and the fake emotion and whatnot. I think the mom is sad here. It doesn't speak to being sad, doesn't speak to innocence or guilt. It's just she is sad at the situation. But if she really was concerned about Sebastian, those words about him would be coming out. She wouldn't be focused on herself. And so this indicates to me that she is more in a mode of self-preservation than anything. So I'm going to see how she does throughout the rest of the interview, and hopefully, I want to hear it change. I don't want to see at the end that she's went through this whole thing in self-preservation mode. I would like to see it change to where she's expressing more concern about Sebastian.
Okay, so I'm going to back up just for a
So I don't think he's going to see that change. But I do agree with him. And I said it in the first time that we watched this video, that I felt that Katie's tears were real. I felt that her sadness was real. The only thing I question is what's behind that. That's the only thing I question. But her sadness, her tears, I believe that was real at the time. I did want to welcome Walter. Welcome to our channel. Just keep in mind that we do no drama here. Same thing with Brandy. You're welcome here. We just don't do drama, okay? We don't allow that in our chat. We don't allow it. We discuss things openly and honestly, but we don't do any hate or any drama here.
second so that the audience can hear those points that you just made. And I agree with them, agree with you 1,000%. And that sadness also could be, it doesn't necessarily mean, it's sadness towards the totality of the circumstances. It could be sadness that, if there's some type of jeopardy there, that this is kind of a release of that stress. And that's where also the soothing of, the rocking back and forth comes into this as well. So I'm going to back up just for a second, listen to how this unfolded.
With family and relatives all waiting to hug and love him, and
That boy's gonna have more.
Now, the interesting part there is he keeps shaking his head no, yet he's talking about all the family and relatives coming in to hug him and stuff. Any thoughts on that, Steve?
Yeah, it's an indication that in his mind he knows that that's not going to happen, and the brain is so powerful, and what the brain knows is typically comes out physiologically, and verbally, linguistically. What the brain knows reveals itself, and that's why the polygraph works, the voice stress analyzer works, and why statement analysis works so well if you're skilled at it. And so he's saying one thing, but that head nod is giving us a different answer that it's really not going to happen.
Yeah, and if we go back, if anybody wants to see, we did an analysis on in Summer Wells' case. You can see it in the playlist early on. Steve caught so many things in that situation, and it was indicative of the father talking on the news, going like this. Going like this. All right. So that good catch. Hang on.
he's gonna walk through that door. And the street will be flooded again with family and relatives all waiting to hug and love him, and
That boy's gonna have more friends than he knows what to do with when he comes home.
So here we are, 8 days now searching for him. Walk us through that Sunday night that he went missing. So walk us through, we've got so many people who really want to know, okay, how did this happen? So kind of just walk us through that night.
I get the sense that she's really concerned about that question. I mean,
Oh, yeah. I love those questions, and that's one of the questions that you and I would ask an investor. Describe your last moments with your loved one. Describe that last day with Sebastian. And if there was something amiss, if something bad happened, it's going to make them very, very nervous, as you know. So it's interesting to see now with that question and where it focused her brain, what she says here.
So many people who really want to know, okay, how did this happen? So kind of just walk us through that night.
We were out and about that day. We were having a really good weekend. We got home. Everything was pretty normal. He was playing in his room. When I told him to go to bed, he did. He said, "Good night, Mom, I love you." Said good night to his puppies. A little bit later, I wound up going to bed, and when I woke him up for school, he wasn't there.
All right. So there's actually a lot in that. She doesn't realize she actually skipped over. I mean, she described that day and evening very succinctly, but skipping over a lot of information. What they did that day, other conversations. She didn't say a whole lot, but from in my perspective, what she did say was actually pretty revealing. So the first thing that she said was, one of the first things was that that day was pretty normal. Now, whenever I hear somebody refer to the day as being pretty normal, I'm on alert right away for it not being a normal day. I hear this most of the time when I hear the portrayal of normalcy. It has turned out to be anything but the norm, and so I'm on high alert now. Why would she say this? And I want to hear other things about in experiential language from her. We did this. We went here. We went there. I tried to get him to wear his new shirt. He didn't want to. He said, "Mom, I'm going to wear this one instead." Little nuances about the day, but we didn't hear those things. She skipped over a lot of those things, which is more times than not, when somebody portrays the day as normal, it's a way of saying, "Hey, you should believe me that it was a normal day, and not ask me any details about the day. Just accept that it was a good day. It was."
I find that really interesting, guys. And the reason I say that is, remember what Seth said she did the minute he got there after he was told that Sebastian was missing? What did Katie do? She ran up to him, put her phone in his face, showed him a picture, and said, "See, we had a good day." Why? Why? Why is she making so much of they had a good day? Why is that so important? Maybe they didn't. I don't know. I know. Canine, I know. That picture was from the day before, and Seth found that out later. But, you know, she's talking about this day, and he's even questioning it here in this video. And it made Seth think twice, too. Why did she run up to him with that picture? He didn't care about that picture at that moment in time. He was wanting to know where his son was. You know, why did she feel the need to show, set that picture? Is it like she's wanting everybody to know that was his last day at home and he had a good day? And if that's the case, why is she wanting everybody to know that? Chai, I laughed with you when I saw your thing about the super chat being on their channel, right? I don't think it's going to be too much longer, and we should have that on ours as well. Hopefully. Within this next month, I think. Okay.
It was a normal day. Or they will say some things that, and not in this particular case, but sometimes they'll portray it as normal, saying something in present tense, indicating this is what we always do on our normal day. And it allows them to not say what actually happened that day in a past tense. And so it's kind of two birds of the same feather here. She's telling us right away, normal day, but I don't hear the language of this is what we did, experiential language. So she's went to, I told it when I told him to go to bed, he did, and she kind of laughed. And what is that? It's a reference to him not going to bed, times that he hasn't gone to bed. And so she's kind of laughing at it like, for once he did, or this time he did. And the problem I have with it is that it is a portrayal or a reference to something negative that Sebastian could have done. So I'm now on alert, and what she says next kind of seals the deal for me. And I don't like what I'm hearing here, because she says, he said, "I love you, Mom," and he went to bed. Now, saying I love you is something that we all do. I'll call my wife. I'll talk to her on the phone. I'll say, "I love you, babe." When I'm leaving, I'll say, "Hey, I'm running out. I'll be back soon. Love you." My daughters are here. When they leave or going somewhere, "All right, love you." We say "I love you" a lot, but we don't have the need to tell other people that, "Hey, by the way, I told my wife I loved her." If we're asked about our day, we just say, "Oh, I had dinner with the family, and oh, my wife and I went here, there, or to drop my wife off at the airport," whatever it is. And these situations are situations where we would say "I love you," but it's the need here that she has to tell the world that, "Hey, my son told me he loved me." So that, on top of it's a normal day and this little hint at a negative reference that sometimes Sebastian doesn't cooperate with me, doesn't do what I tell him to do, a little laugh about it, I'm now alarmed, because more times than not, when I hear this "I love you" come out of their mouth, I know that it is often a time if a crime has been committed, that is typically the time that the crime was committed. This is particularly true in domestic situations such as this, domestic homicides, other situations similar to this. So I'm always on alert when I hear that the portrayal of "I love you." And the other thing is that what that does is, what she's saying is, I'm such a good mother that my son told me that he loves me. And that even elevates this even more. that why the need to portray yourself as a good mom. That is something in an analysis, in the analysis field, that we really take note of, that when there's a portrayal of being a good mom. And there are many cases. It's in the Summer Wells case. There's numerous missing person and domestic homicide type cases. We see this where there's a portrayal of being a good dad, a good mom, a good guy. And it's typically that portrayal comes around the time that if a crime was committed, the crime occurred, or right after, because they're rehabbing themselves now, linguistically, psychologically. They feel the need to rehab themselves, to make themselves look better, to feel better about the situation. And so for me, it's a pretty good indication that something nefarious, something didn't go quite right that night. And so for me, it's if something occurred, it was that night, not the next morning. So yeah, I'm concerned now at this point already.
I have heard that before, not just from him, but from other people, and not just about this case. I have heard where people who are guilty will put that sentence in there. They told me they love me, or, something along those lines, to kind of show that they're a good person. So I have heard that. Was it true here? I don't know. He doesn't know. He's just telling us what happens a lot in some cases. Okay. I've seen you guys talking about the 3-hour phone calls. I think that I have talked about this before. My husband was a trucker. He'd be gone for weeks at a time. They get very, very lonely. And Chris worked out of town, right? Not only that, I think we all can agree on this one thing, that Chris is very controlling. So a 3-hour phone call was probably mostly telling Katie what to do. That's my opinion. But my husband used to call and want to talk for hours on end. And at first I think, oh, that's so sweet, and then after a while, it was like, oh my God, I'm going to go crazy, and I think that part of it was I wasn't even listening to him anymore, and you do end up, falling asleep, dozing, whatever. Or if I started trying to do dishes or do something, he would say, what is that? It's really loud in my ear. And I'd be like, well, then we cannot talk forever because I got to get some things done. Right? So, yeah, 3 hours when a spouse is out on the road really is not a long time. It goes pretty fast, I guess. But the other piece to mine was that I worked all day, and I was on the phone all day. So the last thing I wanted was to be on the phone all night. I mean, it just drove me nuts, right? So, yes, he was controlling, and that was an understatement. So, those CPS reports really shook Seth up. They did. He found out some things that he was not happy about, right? But, what are you going to do? All right, let's continue on.
So, and everybody understands what Steve's doing here is he's kind of, this is, he's not dove into this case until tonight. I mean, this is literally the first time. So it's almost as if I wanted to present it to him in this video, just fresh off the boat, for lack of a better term. And that is such a solid point about a domestic situation for our viewers to understand. When you have the victim looking at the person potentially doing something to them, they go, "Oh, but I love you." Hey, and yet they're being abused or whatever
I
the
agree.
situation is. And that's the point that Steve's making here when he heard that. And I missed it until you just pointed it out. That is such a powerful state level potentially of a domestic situation going sideways. So I'm going to keep moving. Do you want me to keep moving?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
So in your mind, that's usually around what? Were you instantly thinking something's wrong, or were you like, he may just...
Oh, one other thing I have to say about that last segment, and Mally picked it up as well, and I had her statement up there. Was there?
Yeah.
That statement? You know, when I woke him up for school, he wasn't there. Well, what do you mean? Was he woken up? Was he not woken up? What, where's that gone? What's your thoughts on that, Steve?
Yeah, that's definitely something that it's incongruent, those two things. When I woke him up and he wasn't there, well, you can't wake him up if he's not there. So for me, that is something that is not experiential. It's something that what happens in the brain when there's any type of deception, which if it's not experiential, then you have a form of deception because she's portraying it as experiential, as something that actually happened. But what will occur in the brain is that there's so much stress there in the brain from the deception. The brain knows what actually occurred and didn't occur. And if she's now going to try to force the opposite out of her mouth, the brain is like, hey, we know this didn't happen. And it creates this stress in the brain. We will often hear things like this that it will sound confusing. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't flow right. It will be incongruent, like her words are. And when I hear things like that, I'm thinking, wow, this is what's going on the heels of what we just talked about. And now I'm seeing this is called carryover stress. And in voice stress analysis, we would have carryover stress. She's still stressed about what she experienced that night. She's still having to answer questions about that. So she's still feeling that. And so it's coming out now, incongruent, confusion in the language, incongruency. It's classic.
Must be, are you in the shower?
I took a second and walked through the house looking for him in case he'd gotten up and was trying to get breakfast or something, because he did that sometimes. About 3 minutes in, give or take, I was on the phone with my husband. I said, I can't find him. He said, what do you mean you can't find him? I said, he's not in the house.
And so at that point, is that when you call 911, or what's going through your mind?
While we were on the phone.
Let's stop there, Chris. Before CP starts talking, there's some things going on there. Mom indicating that she's certain that he walked out of the house, and something that's key there, and in the context of Sebastian missing, she said within 3 minutes, I was on the phone with my husband. So she brings that up immediately within 3. Now, here's the thing. He's out of town, so he can't help. But she says within 3 minutes, I'm on the phone with him. She has just brought him into this via a phone call. It's very important. Their conversation on the phone is very important. And I'm going to dovetail back to something that I didn't comment on in the segment just before this. But if you remember, she said when she was describing the night, And Sebastian went to bed and said, "I love you, Mom." And then she says, "A little while later, I wound up going to bed." Well, what that is a little while later means there's time that has spanned, that she's not going to tell us what she did in that span of time. And she is not saying how long it was, but she just says a little while later, that's going to suffice for her. We don't know how much time span, but we now know on the back end that she was on the phone with her with CP for 3 hours, I believe it was, before she went to bed. And now she's bringing in another, she's on the phone with him again. This phone conversation with him is going to be really key in whatever happened to Sebastian.
Well, she qualifies it too, Steve, right? She goes, "I can't find him." Well, what does that mean? I mean,
did you find it strange the way that she said that?
yeah, it was like she paused, she's thinking, you can see her gears going.
Yeah.
And let's play that back one more time for the audience and get a better context even for both of us too. Let me go back here just for a second. And by the way, everybody, I hope you can hear this. I've got it turned up full volume. So if you can't hear it real well, turn up on your side over there, the computer on your side, just in case. I certainly want everybody to hear what's being said here.
Are you in the shower?
I took a second and walked through the house looking for him in case he'd gotten up and was trying to get breakfast or something, because he did that sometimes. About 3 minutes in, give or take, I was on the phone with my husband. I said, "I can't find him."
Yeah, I mean, that was just out of thin air. You know, within 3 minutes, "I can't find him."
Yeah.
Well, and it's almost a contextual statement where, you know, she's trying to put it into this anomaly of conversation where, you know, I've been looking for him and I can't find him.
She's hoping it'll get accepted, that it's going to be accepted. But this has so many ties to Summer Wells, because this is so interesting. It's very similar to when Chris, you were at the house and Mom is walking you through the house, and you're down in the dungeon basement, and Mom walked you out the door where she's saying that she thinks that Summer was taken out of that door, that downstairs door, and she came out that door. And I use this clip for my training.
Yes, she did, Mike.
The classes that I teach. But Mom comes out and she says, "I came out here and I said Summer," and the context is incongruent with Summer being missing. If she really knew that Summer was missing, she would come out that door and she would yell, "Summer!" I expect the same thing here from this mother, Katie. I expect Katie to be saying, "Chris, I can't find him. I can't find him anywhere." And I want to hear the frantic, the emotion of her being just out of her mind, frantic of that she can't find Sebastian. But that's not coming out of her brain. It's good. Why? Because it's not there. And what is coming out is her perception of reality. It's what she actually perceived and the way that she perceived it. And it's like, "I can't find him." It's like, oh, like it's time. It's time for the next step in this. Is what I, in my head, I'm hearing, having listened to so many of these. And so it's not congruent with what a de facto innocent biological mother, what should be going through her brain, and how she should be feeling, and how she would portray that as what happened.
Love it. Here we go.
He said, "What do you mean you can't find him?" I said, "He's not in the house."
What's your thought on the breathing here?
My thought is that it's the same. It's just a continuation of the rocking. It's also a portrayal. This whole thing, I'm kind of jumping ahead maybe a little bit, but as I watched this interview, I made a note at the end of making all my notes. And I made a note at the end that throughout the interview, I saw mom and CP, stepdad, spending more of their time and emotion or energy portraying themselves as victims rather than concern over the actual victim.
Isn't that interesting? They're portraying themselves as victims over the actual victim. So Brenda Joe asks, how long did it take her to call 911? Well, she never did. She called Chris, who allegedly was at work, and she called him, she said, within 3 minutes. She got up at 6 o'clock. So she called Chris, and then they actually didn't place the call to the sheriff's office in Sumner County is who they called, not 911, at 6:33 a.m. So it was 33 minutes before they called the police. And Chris says he called the police because 911 you get routed. So he just called the direct line. My opinion is we have heard that he is really close friends with Craddock, the sheriff there at Sumner County. I think he had him on speed dial, but even if he didn't, that's who he called, not 911. Mike, I wouldn't make that opinion after looking at only one case that he's interviewed. I'd have to see more cases that he's interviewed. So I wouldn't make it just after seeing him once. I don't think it's fair to say that if we've only seen him on this interview. Yes. They text and called Seth's voicemail at 6:22. So they called Seth and texted him first, and then they called the sheriff's department. So yes, not good. You saw him before? Okay. Well, I've only seen him on here, so I'm not going to make a judgment.
Who is their 15-year-old autistic son. And I think that is part of this breathing thing that I'm seeing here is that is it's a portrayal of the emotion, how difficult it is. But I think that it's also combined with nervousness. She's obviously nervous about this. I would be, but what I want to hear is if it's actually if she's feeling nervous or stressed about her son being gone, I should be hearing, all of us should be hearing the words that correspond to that. We're not hearing that. And so it has to be something else. And so I go to, well, what else would cause that? Well, with everything else that I'm hearing in the language, I'm thinking, this is a nervousness because she is in self-preservation mode. She is trying to not say things that she shouldn't, that might give
just
her
put a poll up, guys.
away what she actually knows.
Go ahead and vote.
It's just self-preservation, and so she's trying to self-soothe to keep things under control. I believe that it is nervousness, but it's not the nervousness that we should be seeing. It's self-preservation.
Yeah, that's interesting. Mally again came up with another good one. It's Lamaze breathing, right? Pant, pant, blow.
There you go.
So interesting. All right.
And so at that point, is that when you call 911 or what's going through your mind?
While we were on the phone, and I was like, is he on the other side of the bed?
Did he said while we were on the phone, I was there? I'm going to back that up for a second.
Back that up. Yeah.
Did I mishear that? Yeah.
One, or what's going through your mind?
While we were on the phone, and I was like, is he on the other?
What was that?
That's a really good question.
Did you hear that? Did you guys hear that? Maybe I'm hearing something that I want to hear, maybe, but everybody else weigh in. Just listen to what you tell me what you hear.
When you call 911 or what's going through your mind?
While we were on the phone, and I was like, is he on the other side of the bed? The normal places he may be. And
I can't make that one out for sure.
Can't make it out. Yeah. So, yeah.
he wasn't. So I was like, okay, well, hold on a minute. And immediately after that, we
Hello, a story
called
to
Sheriff's
tell.
Department.
Good to see you.
See, immediately after that, and now he joins the conversation, meaning he joins the event.
Right. Yeah. That we is very strong. Just like you said, he's in it. But interesting that he only puts himself in it after Sebastian is missing. Before that, she was in it. He kind of left her on her own, and now he's in it. And that word immediately is not necessary to say. Nobody would have thought to ask. We typically don't think to ask, did you immediately call? Because this is a missing 15-year-old autistic kid who, I mean, there's real reasons to be concerned that he's missing. Nobody would have thought to ask, did you immediately call? But he put that in there. And Chris, it's an emphasis on, look, we did exactly what we're supposed to do. We're following the rules. We're doing what we're supposed to do. And I don't like it, actually. For me, that unnecessary, the use of that unnecessary word is a convincer. It's a convincing statement in and of itself that they did what they were supposed to do. And who portrays himself as good people that are doing what they're supposed to do? Typically, it's people that have done something that they shouldn't be doing, because the people that are de facto innocent and the actual good people don't have a need to rehab themselves, to bolster themselves, to make themselves appear better. They don't use a lot of unnecessary words like that. So that in and of itself, I know it's one little word, but added to everything else, it's I'm stacking things here, and it's just one more thing in the stack.
So yeah, I mean, this is in the 3 minute, within 3 minutes, this is part of that 3 minute call. Within 3 minutes, okay, minute 4 starts, and this is the conversation. And this is how he's describing that, because he takes over from her description of that 3 minute call.
He does. Hey, one more thing.
Yep.
Sorry about that, but
No,
I wanted to be sure. One thing that struck me about this was Mom says within 3 minutes. Well, she said, yeah, I took a second. Now she mimicked what the interviewer said to her. Did you take a second? Or I don't remember exactly what the interview said, but she goes, yeah, I took a second, and I looked around, and then I don't remember her exact words, but within 3 minutes she's on the phone with CP. Well, CP's not there, and so what would we expect Mom to be doing at that point? Would we expect her to call him? How is he going to help? What would you be doing? You'd be on the phone with who? His friends, his biological dad. Is he over at your house? run into the neighbors? Did Sebastian come over here looking outside? Is he outside for whatever reason? Did he go to the garage? All these other things. I can think of like a list, a laundry list of things that I would think mom would be doing and places she would be going and people she would be calling to check, not CP who's out of town. Why does she call him? That makes this even more significant. She pulled him into this with that mentioning of a phone call, and now he takes over and it's like, we did this, we did that. They are united in this. But it's not what I would have expected mom to do. I would expect to hear that I was frantic out of my mind and I did all these things to find Sebastian. When I realized, hey, he's nowhere to be found, I wouldn't be calling CP. I'd be calling the police. Can you get me some help here to find my son? And I know, Chris, if something happened to, one of our grandkids or kids when we were younger, I know my wife would be doing, she'd expect me to be doing things, but she would be taking all these measures herself.
So, I agree with the story to tell. I think, in this case, I probably would have called my husband first as well. So I'm not so sure that I agree with him on that point. I think it's just a natural thing, right? That you're going to call your spouse first. And regardless of if he was there or not, right? Mine would have said, well, get off the phone and call the police. That's what mine would have said, and call me back when you're done or something like that, right? Bye, Chai. You have a wonderful Thanksgiving. So yeah, that particular one, I don't agree with him. I don't agree with his assessment on. But we've got like 29 people in here and only 6 votes going on our poll, guys. You're anonymous, completely anonymous on the poll, so please vote, okay? Want to know what your thoughts are.
And then she would be on the phone calling 911. My child is gone. I could be standing right there. And she would still say, my child, my daughter, my son, whatever is missing. And she would take ownership of it. And just assuming I'm there, but you see what I'm saying? Biological mother, there's a real strength there. And I'm just not getting that sense from her.
Yeah, and you know what else to dovetail on your thought?
Don't hide, Mike. You're more than welcome in here with you.
It sounds almost like an overlay.
Even when you play the devil's advocate, it's okay.
Regurgitated. That immediately I called Don.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in this, Summer was gone. I called Don. Well, the day I heard that was like a huge red flag for me. It was
right,
like,
Super Cat.
well, wait a minute. Your husband's out of town, Don. He happens to be out of town. Okay, in this conversation that we're having here, right?
Yeah.
It just happens to be that both men are out of town the day their children go missing. And in this case, stepson. And yet the stories are extremely similar. The environment's different.
That's scary.
They're very similar. And in this situation where, he starts carrying the conversation here, he takes it away from her for a second, and then he interjects himself into the narrative of that conversation where, I hear, we look there, etc. And I would love to get this tape enhanced to see if he did, put himself into that search mode with her. But most parents, to your point, mothers specifically, they're going to pick up the phone, call 911. My son's missing.
Yeah.
I need your help. My son's missing. Okay, well, hang on for a minute. No, hang on. I got to call my husband. Just a second. No, stay on the line, ma'am. Stay on the line. Okay, we have people are en route. I'm going to back this up one more time. There's the
What
log
is that
breathing.
when you call 911, or what's going through your mind?
While we were on the phone, and I was like, is he on the other side of the bed?
See it now when you listen to it again. It sounded like as I was there. Was that I was there on the phone? Was is he present? I don't know. I'm just thinking outside the box here.
All places he may be in the house, and he wasn't. So I was like, okay, well, hold on a minute. And immediately after that, we called the sheriff's department and made the report.
I ran all over the house, outside, inside.
Called the sheriff's department and made the report.
I looked in every closet.
Within minutes, they were here. They responded within minutes, and here we go.
So you said you were on the phone.
Here we go.
Talk
This
about connect.
this dovetails back into what she said. She called CP and she goes, he's nowhere to be found. Like, what did I say before that? Like, what? Here we go. We're going to the next step, and that's kind of what he just alluded to. Like, oh, here we go. It's the next step, and now they go into all this detail about how many cops were there, and they were all the way down the street. But yet, where was that detail when it came to what she did to find Sebastian? I mean, she did have this.
So, Mike, I think at least one neighbor, when Katie was outside yelling, I remember hearing this. I don't know if it was in this video or the other one with Chronicles of Olivia. But she talked about how her neighbor helped her search a little bit. I mean, I know that they searched the door for the crawl space underneath the house together. So I don't know if it was straight away or not, but yes, he would. um, I think that interpretation is a stretch, and I am not a supporter of this couple. Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm not sure, but I do have to say that when Chris said, and here we go, that bothered me. I don't know why. I'm not gonna try to assess even why that bothered me, but something about that bothered me. You know, I'm not gonna say that I agree with Steve's assessment, what he said about it, but something about the way that Chris said that bothered me. And I'm not sure why. I really not sure.
Little second thought, like, oh, by the way, I did do all these things, but it wasn't in the beginning. It took a bit for her for that to come out of her brain, and we certainly didn't have it when she was describing the day and the evening, all the different things, experiential memory, your last moments with your son, the last day. Those things become very dear to you, and if it's the last day, that something happened to them, they disappeared. You remember those last moments more so than the normal day, and so I'm not hearing it. It's opposite.
Yeah, there's a disconnect here. There's a disconnect.
That's it.
I mean, and my circumstance. I mean, when Karen and I lost our son, I was standing at the teacups with our niece in Disneyland when that phone rang and we got the message that our son had passed from the police in an accident. And I can tell you that is ingrained here and here. I can tell you exactly what emotions came over me and how they flooded my mind, my body. I'm not seeing this. You know, this little boy, 15-year-old autistic son, and they've had 8 days now to process this. 8 days. And, you know, to your point, Steve, I'm not seeing that. It's like, you know, oh, here we go. Let's move. You know, we got things to move. And he's a former military guy. He's a former Navy guy. So for him, maybe it's like, you know, saddle up. You know, let's move. We got things to do.
Could be. But you know, Chris, as you're describing, you remembered you were at the teacups when you got that news, and I'll bet that what flooded your mind was your last conversations with your son, the last time you were with him. I bet that was like forefront in your mind.
Yeah. And I didn't believe it because he was just at our house, you know, earlier, and it's gone. You know, to your point. So you're right. I mean, here, I'm not, it's just like this disconnect.
There's a big disconnect here. And it's troubling.
It is troubling for me too.
Call the sheriff.
Okay. So I agree with them. I feel that there is a big disconnect. I think that's what a lot of people have said about Chris and Katie from the beginning, that there is a big disconnect. And many people have said that they're more worried about themselves than they are about Sebastian being gone, you know, how things will look on them. Chris has been his own worst enemy throughout the whole thing. He's, you know, from the get-go has made it worse for himself than anyone, right? But I agree. I think there is a big disconnect. You know, yes, Katie is very emotional. I believe her tears are real. I believe the sadness is real. But yeah, this is like K9 says, this whole case is troubling. You know, and I wish we knew the end from the beginning, but we don't. You know, and I just keep going back to what I told Dog. I'm stuck. You know, I don't know what to believe. The only thing I will say is there's been enough receipts about the flashlight video, including neighbors that have seen that vehicle and saw the flashlights. So I think that the flashlight video is a part of this. I don't believe that Sebastian walked out of that home. So those two things are the two things that I'm not stuck on myself. I know some people don't agree with me, and that's fine. That's fine. Everyone has their own opinion. I like what Mike just said, though. It's an inconvenience for Chris more than a tragedy. Nail on the head right there, Mike. Very much so. But I believe that Dog and Nick are very close. I really do believe that. You know, of course, Nick didn't tell me what, and that's not something I would ask. I would never ask investigators or law enforcement to tell me anything about the case because it's not right. Right? It's not right. They keep things close to the vest for a reason. The less that, you know, things are out there, the better. Do we wish we knew all? Of course we do, but it's better for the case that we don't. I just hope and pray that Sebastian is home soon. My prayers are that he's home by Christmas. December 7th is coming up. That's his 16th birthday, guys. I can't imagine if he's not home by then how Seth is going to be. I did see that Nick put out another post today. Does anybody know who Green Hoodie Guy is? I'm curious. Anybody know? Because he referenced Green Hoodie Guy. So I'm kind of curious who that is. Right, Canine? Yeah. Wish I knew. I kept thinking, well, who did we see any videos that had a green hoodie guy? It got my mind thinking right away. Because he says to keep our eyes open, right? We're not going to finish this video tonight. Because we're about halfway through it. And so we'd be here at least another hour, if not more. And I don't think we're going to do anything tomorrow. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving, so I know and you won't like it. What do you mean by that, Mike? What do you mean by that? Do you have inside knowledge, Mike? You live in Ireland. I don't think you have inside knowledge. But I do want to know what you mean by that statement, so tell me. But yeah, we're going to take, I haven't taken a day off in a long time, have I, guys? So we're going to take tomorrow off. I'm going to take it to be with Brenda, Joe, my family, right? So we'll continue on Black Friday, I guess. Everybody going to be out shopping Black Friday night. Because then we'll continue on with this video. Hopefully finish it. I think we will try to finish it Friday night. It'll go probably about hour and a half to 2 hours, something like that. But we'll try to finish that one up, and then the one after that is Pascal again. Go figure, right, guys? You too, Canine. Let's see. Are you and Super Cat going to be together for Turkey Day? So some of you I think have already seen the video that I put out. Nick's a bluffer, plain and simple. See, you didn't like it. The thing is, I don't think that you realize how big his resources are, Mike. I have a little bit of inside knowledge about that. Oh, Super Cat. You guys live apart from each other? Super Cat and Canine? You guys love animals. Super Cat and Canine. Yeah, I'm slow. So anyway, oh, they don't have Thanksgiving in Ireland. Oh. Well, I'm sorry, Mike. Will you still enjoy the day off? But anyway, I made a video that I actually scheduled to go out tomorrow because it was a Happy Thanksgiving video, but YouTube messed it up, and published it right away. So that's okay. And, I just meant for it to go out tomorrow, but it just kind of reminds us that there are people out there who don't have a part of their family with them this Thanksgiving. And for some, maybe not their first Thanksgiving without them. I can think of a few people on the video that I put on, but it was people that I have done videos about or touched my heart in some way. So go ahead and look up. It's only a couple minutes long. Ordinary Thursday, good video and a little sad. Yeah. It is a little sad because Sebastian is not home where he belongs, right? And that's always sad. And there's a lot of other people who are not with their families for the holiday. But have a good Ordinary Thursday, Mike. And for the rest of you that celebrate Thanksgiving, I hope you have a very blessed day with family and friends. I want to thank everybody for being here. I really appreciate each and every one of you guys, more than I can even tell you. I really do. I love our chats. I love our discussions. Just really love it. So thank you so much. We're going to see you on Friday, right? Thank you for watching another episode of Granny's Crime Busters. We really appreciate each and every one of you. Don't forget to subscribe and like and even share the content. You can follow us on any of our other social media platforms at YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We really appreciate you guys, and you can also email us at granniescrimebusters@gmail.com. Thank you so much, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.